Professor Zixathala's crystalline carapace shimmered with pride as she activated the containment field around her prized specimens. The advanced xenobiology class at the Galactic University fell silent. Their various appendages, tentacles, and sensory organs focused intently on the terrifying creatures now floating in the energy matrix before them. "Behold," she announced, her voice resonating through the universal translator with the authority of someone who had spent 3 centuries studying the galaxy's most dangerous fauna, the Nexarian deathcrawlers of Kepler 442c. The specimens were magnificent in their lethality, each roughly the size of a Terran house cat, but with 12 segmented legs that ended in razor-sharp claws. Their exoskeletons gleamed like black mirrors, and from their mandibles dripped a substance that could dissolve most known materials within seconds. Most striking were the pulsing sacs along their backs, filled with enough neurotoxin to kill a full-grown Bronthari within minutes. The diverse student body reacted predictably. The insectoid Clicktar students pressed themselves against the back wall, their compound eyes wide with instinctual terror. The aquatic Merdai gurgled nervously in their environmental suits. Even the usually fearless Ergthen, whose species had evolved from apex predators, shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "These creatures," Professor Zixthala continued, clearly enjoying the effect her specimens were having, "represent the perfect evolutionary killing machine. Their venom contains 17 different compounds, each more lethal than the last. Their claws can penetrate titanium steel alloys. They can survive in the vacuum of space for up to 6 standard hours. They reproduce through parasitic implantation, and their offspring can remain dormant for decades before—" A hand shot up from the middle of the classroom. Professor Zixathala paused, her primary eyes focusing on the source of the interruption. It was the human, Marcus Chen, according to her roster. She'd been curious about having a Terran in her class, given that their species had only recently achieved faster-than-light travel and joined the galactic community. Most considered them a quaint but unremarkable addition to galactic civilization. "Yes, human Chen?" she inquired, her translator adding a slight note of condescension that she hadn't entirely intended. Marcus leaned forward in his chair, studying the death crawlers with an expression that the professor couldn't quite interpret. Where other students showed fear or fascination, the humans seemed to display something else entirely, something that looked almost like appetite. "Professor," Marcus said, his voice carrying none of the tremor she'd expected, "are they edible?" The classroom erupted in a cacophony of alien sounds. The Clicktar made chittering noises that roughly translated to horrified laughter. The Merdai's gurgling increased in pitch. Several students from various species began what their translators rendered as prayers to their respective deities. Professor Zixathala's carapace shifted from pride shimmer to confusion pulse. Excuse me?" "Edible," Marcus repeated, now standing to get a better look at the specimens. "Can you eat them? I mean, I know they're venomous, but most Earth creatures with venom or poison are only dangerous if you eat the specific glands or organs where they store the toxins. The rest is usually perfectly safe, sometimes even considered a delicacy." The professor's forearms gestured in bewilderment. "Human Chen, these are instruments of death. They are not food." Marcus nodded thoughtfully. "Right. But that's what everyone said about fugu fish back home. Extremely poisonous, can kill you in minutes if prepared wrong, but when done correctly, amazing sashimi. And don't get me started on castor beans, death cap mushrooms, or raw elderberries. Humans have figured out how to safely eat all sorts of things that can kill us." He moved closer to the containment field, ignoring the way his classmates shrank back. "See, the thing is, anything that put that much evolutionary energy into developing toxins probably didn't have many predators. That usually means the meat itself is tender, since they didn't need tough muscles or thick hides to survive." The death crawlers seemed to sense his attention and became more agitated, their venom sacs pulsing more rapidly. Marcus watched this with obvious interest. "Oh, that's useful," he mused. "They signal when they're stressed by activating their poison production. You'd know to avoid those parts during processing." He turned to the professor. What do they taste like? I have no idea, Professor Zixthala stammered. No rational being would ever consider consuming them. Has anyone ever tried? Marcus pressed. I mean, surely in 3,000 years of galactic civilization, someone must have been desperate, enough or curious enough to give it a shot. The silence that followed was pregnant with a realization that was slowly dawning on every non-human in the room. They were beginning to understand something fundamental about human nature that their xenopsychology textbooks had somehow failed to convey. A Erg-then student, brave enough to speak despite their species' warrior reputation, voiced what everyone was thinking. Your species? You actually eat things that can kill you? On purpose? Marcus grinned, an expression that looked far too predatory on what was supposed to be a prey species from a backwater planet. We eat things that try to eat us back. We cultivate plants that burn our mouths for fun. We've domesticated creatures that could kill us and made them into pets and work partners. We drink poison for recreation and call it alcohol. He gestured toward the death crawlers. These guys, they'd probably be served at truck stops across Earth within a year of introduction. Death crawler wings, probably with a side of ranch dressing. The venom sacs would be the expensive part, sold to specialty restaurants as Nexarian spice pods or something. Some chef would figure out how to neutralize the toxin while keeping the flavor. Professor Zixthala found herself taking an involuntary step backward. The human's casual attitude toward what she considered an absolute threat was profoundly unsettling. It was beginning to dawn on her why her human students seemed so relaxed in advanced xenobiology, while her other students, representatives of species that had been exploring the galaxy for millennia, were terrified. Professor, Marcus continued, apparently oblivious to the existential crisis he was causing, do you happen to know if the university cafeteria takes special orders? Because I'm really curious about the flavor profile of something that evolved on a high-gravity world with that kind of chemical complexity. The Kliktar student nearest to Marcus made a sound that the translator rendered as, "Sweet, merciful ancestors preserve us from the humans." Professor Zixthala realized she was witnessing something that would fundamentally change how she thought about Earth's newest representatives in the galactic community. These weren't just another species of curious scholars and scientists. These were creatures who looked at the galaxy's most terrifying predators and wondered about seasoning. As Marcus continued to examine the death crawlers with the focused attention of someone mentally preparing a grocery list, she made a note to herself to revise the curriculum. Her advanced xenobiology class had just become significantly more advanced than she'd planned, and somewhere in the back of her mind, a small voice wondered what other assumptions about harmless species might need to be reconsidered.